Giorno from JoJo's 5th part Golden Wind is definitely one of the standout protagonists in the series, with more reason than just his flamboyant design and luminous golden hair. But because of his bizarre lineage, being the son of Dio Brando as well as Jonathan Joestar, which is a paradox in itself as the Brando and Joestar bloodlines are destined to be enemies, which should make Giorno a living contradiction of ideals and beliefs. But the result of a son born from Jonathan's body and Dio's mind creates a character with the best features from both of his fathers. Jonathan's heart gives him a natural sense of justice and a motivation to do what is right, but with the mind of Dio being more divine and methodical, allowing Giorno to have a completely different view of the world than the other Joestars. So in today's video, we'll be taking a look at Giorno's character throughout Golden Wind and seeing how Dio and Jonathan are expressed through his actions, and what personality traits he manifested from each of those characters. But first, a quick word from this video's sponsor. This video is sponsored by that game I know you guys all love, Raid Shadow Legends. Raid is a completely free-to-play mobile RPG available on iOS and Android that is incredibly immersive and will take you to the world of dark fantasy and realism. With its amazing graphics, huge boss battles, a full-on story mode PvP, and hundreds of unique champions to collect and customize. Here's some of my favorite champions. I really like the Dark Elf Sniper and the Sacred Order War Priest. Their character designs and animations are really impressive and highly detailed. They also all have unique battle animations and effects for every attack in combat. You can now play Raid on both mobile and desktop, and the game is cross-platform, so you can play with the same username and switch between devices. So play whenever you want and however you want. The graphics look just as good on PC, and the game runs super smooth as well. You can find me in-game under the username xForts, and you can also join my clan if you're quick enough and get to that download link. So what are you waiting for? Go to the video description, click the special link to get 50,000 free silver and a free epic champion as part of the new player program to start your journey. So now back to the video. Every time Giorno acted like Dio and Jonathan, and the similarities between Giorno and his two fathers. So we'll be starting with Dio because although Giorno is a really good person, I definitely think he shares a lot more character traits with Dio. And this starts even from the earliest we see Giorno, his backstory, birth. So as we know, Dio Brando, original one, Phantom Blood Dio, had a very abusive relationship with his father. His mother wasn't around, and Dario, he was a drunk, he would beat Dio, he would manipulate him, and what Dio saw in Dario was everything he didn't want to become, so that really influenced Dio's perspective on the world. And when we have Giorno, although he wasn't exactly the same as Dio's childhood, he had a mother that neglected him a lot, and then his mother eventually married an Italian man who would then beat Giorno. And Giorno just didn't really have a very good childhood growing up. But the part of Giorno's childhood that really establishes the Jonathan heart that's inside him is that he was picked on by the kids at school, he had a bad relationship with his family at home, and the one person that made everything go away and everything better was a member of Passione who Giorno just happened to stumble upon on the side of the road, who was almost dead, and he used his almost manifested gold experience to heal him. And ever since that day, this member of Passione just protected Giorno in every sense. So you'd think that Giorno might grow up to appreciate Passione and say, you know, I have so much respect for this gain. But since Giorno has that righteous heart inside him, what he actually said is that although this member did give me a lot of things growing up, there is still evil inside this organization. They sell drugs to children and they're ruining the community around me, which gets into another reason why Giorno is very similar to Dio, and that's their proactive nature. So back in Phantom Blood, Dio was the one to take the initiative and set off the chain of events that would eventually lead to Jonathan, and he would have to react to. And pretty much every Joestar before Giorno was a reactionary type character. You had Jonathan reacting to Dio messing with his life, killing his dog, killing his dad, becoming a vampire, and just, you know, turning his life inside out. You had Joseph reacting to the awakening of the Pillar Men, Jotaro reacting to Holly getting sick, Josuke reacting to Otoishi, Aqua Necklace's user Angelo, and then eventually Kira. And also you had Jotaro come in and say, hey, Josuke, you know, you're gonna come do this with me. So Josuke again was reactionary. But when it comes to Giorno, he was the one that took the initiative in his part. He very easily could have just went about his life and said like, yeah, the gang sells drugs to kids and, you know, they're impacting the community negatively, but none of that has a direct impact on my life. Nothing happened to Giorno where it's like a member came in and killed his mother or something like that. Giorno very easily could have ignored the things happening around him, but he had a dream Much like Dio. Dio wanted to become strong, he craved power, so Dio took the initiative and did all the things in Phantom Blood and eventually throughout part 3 and 6 that we'll see. Very much like Giorno, so I really love that similarity between Giorno and Dio, and I definitely think that was a conscious effort Araki made to parallel their two characters. So continuing on Giorno's story throughout Golden Wind, he's become the proactive character we know, he's infiltrated his way into Passione, and against all odds, he says, I'm gonna take this game down, I'm going to become the new boss, and I'm gonna fix everything, which again sort of parallels with Dio, craving power, and eventually, as we'll see later in the part, Giorno obtains the ultimate stand power, something Dio always wanted to, but Giorno has a completely different perspective on things because of obviously Jonathan. Continuing on through part 5, some of the first things we see Giorno do that really reflect Dio, the confidence he has in fights and the way he loves to humiliate his enemies. He knows that he's better than the other person, and he doesn't need to say it to him, he just lets things play out, and he's always one step ahead of his opponent. We see this in the first fight he ever got into with Leaky Eye Luca. Giorno just stood there, he was interrogated by Leaky Eye Luca, and when Luca went to attack him, Giorno was 2 steps ahead, man. He already had the frog on his stomach, and as soon as Luca hit it, he gets bashed in the back of the head. And Giorno, after that, is just like, I'm better than you. He doesn't say anything like that, but just his posture and the way he exudes himself really gives it off that way, which is similar to Dio. And he does that again with Bruno in their fight with the Fly. The Babyface and the Popo fight are especially times that reminded me, it's like, dude, Giorno, he is Dio's son right now. And it's when he doesn't need to see his opponent be defeated to know that he won. So in Popo's case, Giorno turned the banana into a gun and he left. When he walked out of that prison, he already knew that he had won. And Popo just shoots himself. And, you know, maybe Giorno had some sort of sense that it was confirmed, but just the badassness of just not even needing to look at your opponent when they die is very much Dio-esque and very much Giorno-esque. Because, you know, Dio in part 3 was sending out waves of stand users to try to kill the Joestars and the Crusaders. Although he was never very successful at it, he still tried, and Giorno does that as well. He sent out the banana gun, and he also had the snake against Malone. Maybe once he was like the boss of Passione, he definitely ordered other people to do things, sort of like his minions, but since Giorno didn't have a lot of power in the beginning, he used gold experience to create minions and go out and kill people for him. And coming off of the way that Giorno kills things comes into the next similarity between Dio and Giorno, and it's that they are methodical. They're cold thinkers, they're realistic, and they just look at things different from the other Joestars and the way that they approach a fight. And I know some people might be like, well, Dio's not that methodical. I will give you that later into part 3 when his ego gets boasted up when he gets the world. He definitely does things a lot more hot-headedly, more emotionally, and, you know, he doesn't really think about what he's doing with the world. He just got, you know, his ego got to him. He got so powerful when he got the world, he thought he was unstoppable. But if we remember the Dio from part 1, Dio was a really smart guy. You know, one of the first times we see him on screen is when he's in a bar playing chess for money, which again shows how bad his childhood was. He wasn't even able to get meals. He had to beat people in chess for money. But chess is a mind game, you know, you need to be smart. You need to think 2 steps ahead. And, you know, Giorno definitely inherited that character trait. So I think I've established pretty clearly that Dio and Giorno think similarly. But onto some more literal examples of him showing his Dio side is the way that he beats people down. He says Muda, and which is like one of my favorite things about him. Like, you could get super analytical. Like, Giorno's a great character, but at the end of the day, he's a Joestar that says Muda and yells it loud. And he also says Re during the 7-page beatdown, which is just, yeah, that's how you know that's Dio's child. Oh, and something I forgot to mention earlier when we were going through Giorno's childhood was that when his hair changed color. Earlier in the video, I referred to Dio as Giorno's soul father, which that's how I see the relationship. Dio is Giorno's soul father, and Jonathan is like his physical father, because when Giorno awoke in Gold Experience, that's when his hair changed color, and it's like, well, why would that happen? Because as Giorno gets more in touch with the supernatural side of things and awakens his spiritual manifestation as a stand, you know, that's sort of, he's getting that from Dio in a way, so his hair changes color like Dio, which is one of the coolest things Araki's ever written in JoJo. The hair change was so cool. Could you imagine Giorno all throughout part 5 with just like short black, just like very basic hair? No. So Giorno gained in touch with the spiritual side of things, makes a connection with his soul father Dio, and he obtains Gold Experience, ultimate stand power. And speaking of stand power, we have one of the last connections we have between Giorno and Dio, and is that Dio was seeking ultimate power. He, you know, stando power, and he eventually had his goal to attain heaven, which we learn in part 6. And in part 6, we see that, well, what is heaven? Heaven is essentially just an evolution of your stand that grants you an immense amount of power in a particular way with Made in Heaven. But I like to think that Giorno, in a sense, did attain heaven with Gold Experience Requiem, because when it comes to GER, I can't really think of anything more powerful than that. So I think it's so ironic that Giorno was the one able to attain a sense of heaven, something that Dio always wanted to get to, but he did it through a noble way, and he used that power for good eventually when he became the leader of Passione. And that brings us over to the Jonathan side of things. So obviously the biggest part of Jonathan that we see in Giorno, besides the Joestar birthmark, is just his overall sense of justice, which is carried throughout the entire bloodline. If you are a descendant of Jonathan, you have a noble cause inside you, and you're gonna be able to do good things. Maybe except for Dio's 3 other children, but definitely in Giorno. And for the last similarity I have between Giorno and Jonathan, although there could be a lot more, I could pretty much just list off every good thing Giorno does and say, yeah, that's a part of Jonathan in him. But the one part of him that I really think is a reflection of the Joestar bloodline that differentiates himself from the Brando inside him is his willingness to make sacrifices and his willingness to trust others. Giorno didn't spend a lot of time with the Passione gang when he first met them. I mean, think about the soft machine fight where Giorno made an immense sacrifice. Giorno didn't even know if he was going to survive when he sacrificed himself to soft machine to help Abacchio and Bruno solve the mystery. When he ran off and got stabbed by him, Giorno was putting his life on the line and putting his life in his friend's hands. And that's something you would really never see Dio do, but definitely something more on the Jonathan side of things. And that pretty much sums up the similarities between Giorno, Dio, and Jonathan. And it can simply be said that Giorno has the mind of Dio and the heart of Jonathan. But I want to give you guys some specific examples and show especially how similar he is to Dio in the way that he thinks and the way that their lives played out. And the last thing I want to mention about Giorno and Dio is how they're displayed in a very celestial way, very divinely. And especially when Giorno gets Gold Experience Requiem, he becomes a god. Who else would he have gotten that from besides Dio, which literally means god in Italian, which is like just so many small things that connect Giorno and Dio, which I love the relationship between them. I love what Araki did, and that's one of the reasons why Giorno is one of my favorite protagonists. A lot of people will have, hate things to say on Giorno, like, oh, he's boring, he doesn't get enough action, but when you take into consideration how thoughtful Araki was when making him, taking into consideration that he is an amalgamation of both Jonathan and Dio, and you see that reflected in so many parts of his character, makes Giorno, in my opinion, a lot better than a lot of the other Joestars. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble on about why I love Giorno and how I think it's so cool how you can see Dio and Jonathan's personality inside him. Like if you enjoyed, I think I'm going to start doing like goals in 2020 because every other YouTuber does like goals and it seems to work. So if we could go for 5,000 likes in this video, that would be awesome. Thank you guys so much. Subscribe if you are new around here and you'd like to see more videos from me, and have a good rest of your day, guys. All right, peace.